Now, for those of you who don't know about Ilford, this is the company that makes a bunch of different black and white film stocks that a lot of film photographers enjoy shooting. And probably most people are familiar with HP5, but Ilford also makes the XP, FP, Kentmere, and Delta lines, along with Pan F, of course, which are all really cool different versions of a black and white film stock. This week, though, we are looking at one of the oldest film recipes in the proverbial cookbook, which is Ilford's own Ortho Plus. For those unfamiliar, though, Ortho Plus is very interesting for two specific reasons. For one, it is an 80 speed ISO film, which typically means that you are going to need a lot of ambient light to make this film actually look good because it is so slow. 80 speed is very unfamiliar to a lot of people because usually we only see about 100 ISO, and this one's a little bit different and a little bit less at 80. So for those of you who have cameras that don't have an 80 setting, you can typically just set your camera to 100, but for me specifically, my Mamiya 645 actually has an 80 speed setting for weirder films kind of like this. But even more than film speed, the bigger difference is the fact that Ilford's Ortho Plus is in itself an orthochromatic film stock, rather than one that is panchromatic. Most of the black and white film stocks that are on the market today are panchromatic. These are the stocks which will take the entire visible light spectrum and render them in a black and white tonality. Orthochromatic stocks are innately different. Essentially, the biggest difference here is that your images in orthochromatic scales will be different in contrast than those in your panchromatic counterparts. Probably the best example of this that I got on my last walk was of this fire hydrant. On the ortho film stock, though, it's been rendered to nearly black. This really helps to exemplify this idea that an orthochromatic film stock will render colors, especially those like reds, much differently than a panchromatic stock, or probably those which you have dealt with before. But if we compare that to this blue and green dominated image of this high-rise in downtown Durham, we can really see the difference between the tonalities that we get with a blue-green kind of image versus that previous red of the fire hydrant. The blue-green is more of a middle gray, and it's put up against the blue sky, which is a little overexposed, but generally speaking, your blues and greens will be a little bit more muted and a little more natural than something that is typically really vibrant red like the fire hydrant. But more than just the images, I also want to give you this idea that orthochromatic film, though they are different when it comes to the shooting side of the process, when you're actually getting into the development side, they're very similar to your panchromatic stocks. For this roll specifically, we started with a 120 roll of Ilford Ortho Plus. We shot it at box speed at 80 through the Mamiya 645, and then once we got it into the development process, we used a rod and awl development along with Ilford's own fixer and stop bath to kind of keep it in the Ilford family, just because those are the ones that I typically like to use. But for those that are interested in the complete 3-step process, I wanted to highlight this video here as well for a complete how-to on the 3-step process for black and white film development. For anyone that's really interested in trying this at home for yourselves, or if you're getting into it, I hope that you will check out this video. But for everyone else, I just wanted to mention here that though the shooting portion of the process is a little different, the development portion of the process with an orthochromatic film is very similar. So if you have your black and white chemicals that you use regularly, you can continue to use those with your orthochromatic films as well. In conclusion though, since this isn't really a general purpose film and it's kind of a specialty idea nowadays, there are really two things that I would like to think about before taking it out into a photo shoot or into a photo walk of any kind. And there are two things that I think you, if you're considering picking up this stock, might want to think about as well. The first, of course, for me is lighting conditions. So I know the times of the day that I typically like to go out and shoot. So if you're considering this stock, then that is the first thing that I would consider, because you're going to need a lot of light to be able to push 80 ISO. And the second thing that I would think about is the typical subject that I like to shoot. Am I a portrait photographer? And if so, am I okay with a tonal adjustment of skin tones? Or am I an architectural photographer or a landscape photographer, or maybe even still life, where maybe I don't mind that adjustment in my tones on my black and white images? Those are things that you're going to have to consider when picking up a film stock like this. And in my opinion, if those answers are not concrete for you, you may want to consider a different film stock, because the latitude of forgiveness in this stock is much less than particularly other stocks that are on the market today. So it's not one simply that is going to adjust to you, but instead one that you're going to have to adjust the way you shoot to the film stock's aspects as they stand. Unless, of course, you're into experimentation, and if so, I commend you for that anyway. But that's what I have on Ilford Ortho Plus. So hopefully you've liked this video, and if you have and want to leave me a comment, let me know what you're thinking about down in the comment section below. Have you shot a roll of this? If you have, let me know how it came out. And if you haven't, make sure to let me know what you saw here. Did you like these images? Are there something that you would consider? What about the two ideas that I've kind of promoted here as far as whether you should or shouldn't shoot this? I would love to know all of that in the comments section below. And of course, while you're there, don't forget to hit all of the usual social links for Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Super appreciate it, and I would love to talk to you guys all over the internet, wherever that might be. But beyond all of that, I wanted to say thank you so much for checking this one out, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around through 2023, and I look forward to seeing you all in 2024 as we continue through this process. I hope you all had a great holiday season, and I hope that you have a great new year. So I hope to see you around in the coming days as we go through our next project. I don't know what it is yet, but we'll figure it out. We'll continue into photography and film photography and all kinds of stuff. So let me know in the comments below if you're thinking about anything that you would like to see on the channel this year. I would love to talk to you guys. I super appreciate it. And with all of that, I'm going to say peace out, and I will see you guys in the next one.